Spider-Man is back in the MCU. After a lot of renegotiations between Sony and Disney, we are officially getting a Spider-Man 3 set in the MCU in just a couple of years. And it appears that the script for it has been leaked. What's up everyone, it's Warren, and yes, you heard correctly, apparently the script for Spider-Man 3 has been leaked, revealing the villains, revealing the plot, and some familiar heroes as well. So, let's jump into it, but first, be sure to subscribe if you love Marvel content and you'd like a chance to win an Xbox One or a PS4, and also an Infinity Saga collector's box. To enter, all you have to do is be subscribed with the notifications turned on, leave a like, and leave a comment down below. And more on that at the end. So, this plot leak is very detailed and could very well be real. So, spoiler alert if you would like to avoid anything related to the next Spider-Man film. So, the movie starts off with Peter Parker being raided and arrested by the cops and SWAT team at his home. He is then taken to court and he is tried and sentenced to life with no possibility of parole in a maximum security prison. Much of the first act is Peter going to court, the court proceedings, and then him being taken to prison. Once Peter gets to prison, it shows him trying to adjust to life in prison, but then all of the convicts and even some of the guards start trying to kill him. Now, one thing to note here is that nowhere does it mention a lawyer. There's been a lot of talk that Jennifer Susan Walters, or She-Hulk, could be his attorney. Or somebody that's even more exciting, Matt Murdock, aka Daredevil. Unfortunately, at this point in the plot leak, there is no mention of either of them. Now, that doesn't mean that they're not going to be in the movie, it just means that they're not mentioned right here. But in prison, basically everybody is trying to kill Peter Parker. So Peter soon finds out that there was a huge contract put out on him from somebody on the outside calling himself the Benefactor. Now, if you're wondering why the Benefactor sounds so familiar, it's because we've heard this name 2 times before. One is from Ant-Man and the Wasp. Sonny Burch mentions a mysterious benefactor. And the second time that we've heard the Benefactor was for a supposed post-credit scene for Spider-Man Far From Home. Now, nobody really knows if there was an original post-credit scene for Spider-Man Far From Home that involved this mysterious benefactor that was supposed to set up the Sinister Six. But some people do claim that a post-credit scene did exist for Spider-Man Far From Home that had the benefactor in it. So Peter learns that this so-called benefactor has put out a hit on Peter's life. That's why everybody is trying to kill him in prison, even the guards. A massive brawl ends up breaking out, leading to Peter being transferred to a different prison. The bus carrying him and other prisoners is intercepted in the middle of the city by Kraven the bounty hunter. Kraven coldly kills the prisoners and dukes it out with Peter. Peter manages to escape Kraven, but he is very badly beaten. He is free, but now is a fugitive from the law and is being chased by people who want him dead. And if you're wondering who the benefactor is, don't worry, this plot leak does reveal it. So Peter is now on the run and he disconnects himself from everybody that he knows. He only reaches out to Happy via a payphone to ask him for help if possible and to leave a message for his friends and family. But besides from that, he has absolutely no help at all. We go on to find out that this mysterious benefactor is actually Mysterio himself, Quentin Beck. He's still alive and working behind the scenes to get rid of Spider-Man before returning as the renowned Mysterio. Now, I knew the fandom was split about 50-50 on whether or not they actually believed Mysterio was dead. I actually didn't and still don't think he's dead. He is a master of illusion. I think the end was just an illusion. Now, much of the second act is really a cat and mouse game between Spider-Man and Kraven, and he spends much of the movie without any web shooters. He does get a new suit, but it's one that he hand makes, and it's not very good. We find out that this is Kraven's first time being tasked to kill a superhuman, and he's having fun with it. Almost taking it easy and just sort of toying with Spider-Man. So Peter gets caught in a race between trying to clear his name upon discovering that Quentin Beck is still alive, and also trying to avoid the law and Kraven, along with other small-time hitmen and villains who pop up along the way. And this is where the plot leak starts to get very interesting, introducing new characters. Peter eventually gets back in touch with Happy, and Happy points Peter in the direction of Agent Jessica Drew. Agent Jessica Drew believes that Peter is innocent, and she's willing to help keep Kraven off of his tail. Happy also manages to get Peter his web shooters back and manages to get him his old original homecoming suit. Quentin Beck, aka Mysterio, becomes increasingly frustrated with Kraven's failure to kill Spider-Man. But we find out that it's actually Kraven's last hunt. See what they did there? As he has been diagnosed with terminal cancer and he is savoring it. Savoring his final kill, but as it turns out, he honestly just doesn't want to kill a kid. And this kind of makes sense because Kraven isn't necessarily a villain. He's kind of like Venom. He's not really a villain per se, but he's not necessarily a hero. He's kind of an anti-hero. So Kraven not wanting to kill a kid makes sense, but Quentin Beck threatens to kill Kraven if he doesn't get the job done. Now, although it doesn't talk about it in this plot leak, it does sound like Mysterio has some sort of power over Kraven. Perhaps he promised Kraven something that could help him, or perhaps someone in his family, but it sure does sound like he has some type of control over him rather than just giving him money to kill somebody. But we have another twist. We find out that Quentin Beck himself has a benefactor, and this benefactor is none other than Norman Osborn. That's right, the Green Goblin himself. And we find out that Norman Osborn is running to be a senator. Now, although Quentin Beck is working for Norman Osborn, Norman eventually exposes Beck as a fraud and proves Peter Parker's innocence. Now, Norman Osborn, if you know him, doesn't really do anything out of the goodness of his heart. He did this to make himself look good and did this to help him in the election. Him exposing the truth swings the public opinion his way for the election. He gets the credit for reopening the investigation and finding out the truth about Peter Parker, Spider-Man, and Mysterio. But Kraven is still on the hunt, and the final battle between Kraven and Spider-Man is brutal. They get sandwiched by the police, and it ends in Kraven nearly being killed by an extremely angry Peter Parker. Kraven tells Peter where Beck is hiding, and Peter lets him live. Of course, we're not ever really going to see Spider-Man kill anybody. But something to note is that Spider-Man 3 is said to be the darkest Spider-Man that we've ever seen. Peter is on the run, he's arrested, he's put in prison, everybody is trying to kill him, and we don't have the normal characters like MJ, Ned, Flash, and Happy that normally lighten up the situation. And then after dealing with all of this in the film, it seems like he almost snaps and almost kills Kraven, which would make sense because that's honestly just very realistic. But we're not done. Peter goes into Beck's hideout, which ends up being a really big illusion. This scene is going to be very much like the scene that we saw in Spider-Man Far From Home, where Spider-Man takes on Mysterio for the very first time. Although this time, he beats him. And although Peter is completely enraged, he does not kill Quentin Beck. He simply defeats him, and the police come, and Quentin is arrested. The police seize all of Quentin Beck's evidence and belongings, and they find out that Peter Parker is indeed innocent. Peter is officially ruled innocent by the court and is finally free. Of course, at the end, Peter finally reunites with MJ, Ned, and May, and there are some happy moments shared between all of them at the end. But the final scene is very interesting. Peter goes to visit Doctor Strange, and while he's there, Doctor Strange offers to make the world forget. Peter ponders the question, and then the credits roll. Now, it's very curious as to what Doctor Strange is offering to make people forget. Is he offering to make people forget that Peter Parker is Spider-Man? That way nobody would know the identity of Spider-Man? Or is he offering to make everybody forget everything that happened with Mysterio? Because if that's the case, then that could probably create some trouble. But we do know that Doctor Strange's job is supposed to be protecting reality. So perhaps there's something there that he could possibly erase to help protect the reality that they live in. Now, there is no mention of a post-credit scene, but based off of what the plot leak said, it seems like we could probably get something relating to the Green Goblin or the Sinister Six. And let's not forget what Amy Pascal, the former chairperson of Sony Pictures Entertainment and the owner right now of Pascal Pictures, said very recently. That was her talking about the Sinister Six. She said that right now, in this Spider-Man universe that we technically have all of the characters that could make up the Sinister Six. So it appears that the Sinister Six are coming eventually, and this movie will even throw in Kraven the Hunter. And if Norman Osborn really is the mysterious benefactor behind everything that we've heard in the MCU so far, he could definitely get Quentin Beck out of prison, and he could recruit Kraven the Hunter as well. Now, there has been a lot of talk about a Kraven the Hunter solo film from Sony. However, of course, they just worked out a new deal with Disney. Of course, that idea was for Spider-Man to remain in the MCU, so perhaps that deal could have affected their decision to make a Kraven the Hunter movie. Or perhaps they're just going to introduce him first in Spider-Man 3. But it definitely seems like Spider-Man 3 is going to set up at least the introduction of Norman Osborn into the MCU and the Green Goblin. And the Green Goblin being introduced, as well as the Sinister Six, makes sense because Spidey is back for 2 films. We know that the deal was for 1 other solo movie and a crossover movie. So the really exciting news is that if he ends up going up against the Green Goblin / Norman Osborn and the Sinister Six, it will most likely involve other heroes. Based off of this plot leak, it still seems like he keeps in contact with Doctor Strange. It wouldn't be hard, they both live in New York, they're probably not too far from each other, so it wouldn't be hard for them to team up, not to mention some of the other Avengers could come in as well. So based on everything this plot leak has said, Spider-Man 3 sounds to be pretty dang good. And it sets up the next crossover event for Spider-Man and other Avengers. So if this is what we end up getting for the 3rd Spider-Man film in the MCU, I'm okay with this. I actually really like this. I like the return of Mysterio because I don't believe that he's dead. I like the introduction of Kraven the Hunter, and I like the introduction of Norman Osborn. I think it sets up the future for Spider-Man in the MCU very well, which will make him stay a lot longer, which of course is what we all want. So let me know in the comments down below if this is how Spider-Man 3 is going to be. Do you like it? If not, what would you change? Drop a comment down below. Also, don't forget to give this video a like, and be sure to subscribe to my channel if you'd like to stay up to date with the MCU and all things related to Marvel. This also enters you in my giveaway, giving away an Xbox One and a PS4, and then after that I'll be giving away an Infinity Saga collector's box. Again, all you have to do is be subscribed to my channel with the notifications turned on, like the video, and comment below. My Infinity Gauntlet giveaway is going to launch today as well, so I'll put a link to that in the description down below. And as always, thank you all so much for watching. Woof woof.